Hi, my name is Katie. I forgot that I start videos like this, and I did not leave myself enough room to spin around this way, so I did that way, and it was still bad. Let's talk about VidCon. I felt bamboozled. Hello, this is Katie from the future. Grab your nearest drink and take a sip every time I say actionable advice. It'll be fun. Fun for the whole family. So, in all honesty, I didn't really want to make this video. I did, but I didn't. Because it felt negative. And I only like being negative in the privacy of my own text messages. But I felt like maybe sharing my experience at VidCon this year could be, well, for starters, I wanted to do it because I wanted to hear other people's experiences and opinions. So if you went to VidCon this year, absolutely leave a comment down below at any point of this video. But I also thought it might be beneficial for anyone who is thinking they might go either next year or any other future year. And if that is you, I want you to take everything I say with a little grain of salt. Just a little Salt Bay. This was my personal experience. I went into this year's VidCon with my own expectations that, spoiler alert, were not met. So I don't know, if you're making a pros and cons list of whether or not you're going to go to VidCon 2023 or what have you, just maybe let this be a tick in the cons section. Katie did not enjoy VidCon 2022. Check. And let that have as much weight on your decision as you want it to have. So backstory, this was my 5th VidCon. My first VidCon was VidCon 2016. I had just finished my freshman year of college. I just passed 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. That was my biggest platform at the time. And I had been making YouTube videos for about 3 years at that point. And then I went to VidCon 2017, 2018, 2019, and then VidCon 2020 was canceled because, TanaCon just kind of really took over the whole scene. So that competition was just a classic TanaCon joke. No, you know why there wasn't a VidCon for the past 2 years. So for all 4 years that I went to VidCon, I got a creator track pass. VidCon sells 3 levels of passes. There is community track, creator track, and industry track. And you can look at their website to see exactly what the wording is for what each of those tracks means. But essentially, community track is you go, you can see internet people you want to see, you go to panels, you go to expo hall. It's just fun old time. Creator track is for people who are either creators or interested in becoming creators. They get access to panels that are supposed to be about learning things having to do with being a creator. Industry track is I don't really know. They have the blue passes, they're the most expensive pass, and they go do something on the 3rd floor. Also, creator track has access to all community track stuff, and industry track has access to all creator track and community track stuff. So it's a tier thing. I don't know if any of this information is relevant. I just feel like I need to give as much information as I have. So another important point for my personal story is that for all those 4 years I went to VidCon, my biggest following was on YouTube. And by 2019, which was the last year I went to VidCon before this year, I'm not positive, but I can't have had more than 1,500 subscribers on YouTube. I did not have a large following. And I went to creator track panels, like many others, to try to learn how to get a larger following. I promise I'm going to get to this year's VidCon. I think all this backstory is important. This is the last thing before we get to this year's VidCon 2022. So this notebook, I've taken this notebook to every VidCon I've ever been to. And I'd use it to take notes at the panels I went to because a lot of the panels I went to were creator track panels where you were supposed to go and learn things that you take home with you and use. So I have a physical representation of how much I felt I learned at VidCon each year. Now, VidCon 2022. I'm going to give you some stats and I'm not going to pretend that I don't have a screen right here. I'm going to straight up read it off the screen because it's a lot of numbers. So as of June 2022, my largest internet following is on TikTok with over 600,000 followers. Nice. I have over 8,000 subscribers on YouTube and about 17,000 on Instagram. Huge leap from where I was for my first 4 VidCons. And because of this, I was so excited to go to this year's VidCon because in past years, a lot of the panels I went to, it was okay, this isn't stuff that I feel like I can really get a lot out of now, but I'm going to write it down and utilize this once I have a bigger following. So I was very pumped to go to this VidCon with a large following already and get some actionable advice and tips that I could start using now. I think the first red flag for me was when the agenda dropped. I don't know, it just felt like a lot of the panels and descriptions were just really vague. There was just not a lot popping out to me personally as stuff I was particularly interested in. There were also a lot of sponsored panels, which didn't really bother me at the time just because I didn't really understand fully what that meant, but we'll get to that. I think they might have added some panels after the agenda initially dropped. Either that or my expectations from when it dropped had lowered after seeing the lineup. So after I went back to look at it, I was kind of like, oh, okay, that could be interesting. I felt like I was seeing panels I hadn't seen before, but maybe the first time I saw them, I was just like, there's gotta be something better than this, right? But again, that was just me, what I felt like I wanted out of VidCon and kind of being disappointed. At the same time, I was like, you know what, maybe these could actually be good. And maybe these are like panels that I need that I didn't really even realize that I could learn something from. So I was like, cool, Another thing I'll say is that like this year's VidCon in comparison to like the other VidCons I'd been to, there were definitely a lot less like featured creators I was interested in seeing, whether they were on like community or creator panels. And like that's just a me thing. A lot of things changed this year. A lot of people I used to be into on YouTube either like aren't doing YouTube anymore, or I am not into them anymore, or maybe they just didn't want to go to VidCon. I don't know. Also, YouTube wasn't even the main sponsor this year. Like in past years, the main sponsor was TikTok. So there were just like a lot of TikTokers that I personally did not know or did not care about. But I just wanted to say that because like even though I get the creator pass, being able to like either see some creators I like on creator panels or seeing them in community panels or like, wherever was always like a part of VidCon that I enjoyed. So that definitely I think contributed to my overall experience of not super enjoying it. And like, that's not really VidCon's fault. So the agenda dropped, wasn't really feeling the panels, wasn't really feeling the featured creators. So just like bad taste in my mouth going into VidCon. But there were still like a bunch of panels that I was interested in, excited for even. Specifically, there were 2 panels about Discord, which I was really excited about because I've been thinking about like starting a Discord, building community there. So I wanted to learn more about how to do that. And I was like, 2 separate panels about Discord. This is going to be a wealth of knowledge. So keep that tucked away. More to come. Okay, so we're here. We're at VidCon. First of all, masks were not required. Gross. You did need to bring either proof of vaccination when you registered or a negative COVID test from within like 2 days or yeah, I think that's what it is. I don't know. You know that thing that people do that doesn't really work? They also highly encourage people to wear masks, but like no one was wearing masks. I shouldn't say no one. Maybe like 1 out of every 30 to 40 people I saw were wearing a mask. That might even be generous. Honestly, I didn't see a ton of masks. It was just like not great. I wore a mask the whole time, but anyway, this is all foreshadowing. Stay tuned. So there are like some nitpicky things about VidCon I could complain about, like how I literally had to turn to a security guard after I walked through the metal detector to go to registration and be like, hey, can you get my stuff? Because when you go through the metal detector, you have to like take all your stuff out of your pockets, put it down on a table and then walk through. And the people who were supposed to like check the stuff and then push them through were just like talking to each other, not paying attention. He didn't even realize it was happening. I was standing next to him for like a solid 10 seconds before I was like, hey man, can I get my stuff? That was just a one-off incident. Honestly, the security at VidCon seemed very good. But since that was like my first experience with the security at VidCon for this year, it was like not a good first impression. I could also talk about the terrible service, at least like where all the creator track panels were. Like there were multiple speakers at these panels who like mentioned how bad the service and like the Wi-Fi were. Like presentations were like buffering because the like Wi-Fi or whatever was so bad. Also, ironically, I tried to post a TikTok while I was like in that area and it wouldn't post. I was at the convention sponsored by TikTok and I couldn't post a TikTok because their service was trash. And I can't really even call this a complaint. I guess it's kind of a complaint. I see it as more of an observation, but I'm sure it's going to sound like a complainy observation. Every year, VidCon has an expo hall with booths and tables and like things to do. There's just always so much to like, even if you don't participate in like any of the big like games or things or like go up to tables and talk to people or buy anything, like there just always feels like there's so much to do. And I would feel like, it's multiple days of VidCon. So sometimes I would feel like I'd go to the expo hall one day and I'd go like day 3, I was still seeing new things that I hadn't seen before. But this year's expo hall was just like, it was bad. And I've now watched multiple videos of people saying the same thing, whether or not they've been to past VidCons or not. So like, I don't think it's just me. For a while, I was thinking it was just me. I was thinking that like maybe there was a whole other portion of the hall that I just like kept missing somehow. It just seemed like so much space was taken up by these like giant, kind of ugly like installations by like Paramount Plus, this thing and this thing and this thing. I don't remember exactly what each of the things were, but I'm gonna put them up. Oh, Amazon. One of them was Amazon Prime. I remember that. But I'll put them up on the screen. You'll see what I'm talking about. Also, the Squishmallow Ball Pit, aka DashCon Ball Pit 2.0. If you know, you know. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's a pandemic thing. maybe they couldn't get like as many vendors. Maybe they wanted to keep stuff like spread out instead of like in past years. I think it was a little like, there weren't as big walkways. So like people were kind of forced to be close together. So like it could have been that. But yeah, I don't know. It was just kind of like sad to see. Like, I think I just went into the expo hall once and I never went back, never returned. But enough of my nitpicky complaints. I think my biggest complaint for myself for VidCon this year, actually, I'm thinking about it now, and the mask thing might be my biggest complaint. Like, if I had the option, if someone was like, you can change one thing about VidCon, make it different, what would you do? I would probably make them have a mask policy. So moving on to my second biggest complaint of VidCon this year. The creator track panels. So earlier I brought up this notebook, which I've brought to every VidCon to take notes in. And after day one, like I barely filled up a page. And I put like spaces between each of the panels. For like VidCon 2017, the first panel I went to, all the notes I took at that panel take up the entire first page. Just like the first panel I went to. So this was my main complaint about the panels that I went to at VidCon. And like, I am one person. I could only go to so many panels. Maybe just luck of the draw, I just picked a bunch of not great ones. I don't believe that, clearly, but it's a possibility. The majority of the panels I went to were just I keep using the word anecdotal. Like at past VidCons, most of the panels I went to were either led by like seasoned speakers who had like prepared presentations, or moderated panels where the people on the panels were giving like actionable advice. Literally like, do this, try this. You can go home right now and try this and it could help your content. But most of the panels I ended up going to were just like a moderator asking kind of vague questions and a creator or creators giving like very anecdotal answers, just like telling stories about themselves. And like, I don't really blame the creators because like, yeah, if someone asks them, what's one piece of advice you give to creators just starting out? Like the 19-year-old who blew up on Twitch over the pandemic probably isn't going to give an answer that's going to like knock my socks off. And I don't really blame the moderators either because like, I don't know how much these people are getting paid or like what exactly they're even told to do. And like, I wish they had asked questions that maybe would have like opened the door for more insightful and helpful answers. But I don't think a lot of these creators came to VidCon with any knowledge or like foresight about what they were going to be asked or what they're going to talk about. So like, I don't know if better questions would have necessarily led to better answers. Anyway, one of the first panels I went to, I don't actually know if I should use it as an example because I did end up leaving early to go to another panel, but I find it very difficult to believe that it got much better after I left. So the panel was about like collaborating with brands. And like I said before, this is the first VidCon where I've been in a position where I've actually collaborated with brands and have opportunities to collaborate with brands. So whereas in past years, I might have like just taken a couple notes at this panel for future reference or just skip the panel altogether. I was really excited to go to this and get some advice that I could use right now. So the panel featured one 20-year-old TikTok star who I at first didn't think I knew who he was, but then I realized that he was on a reality show that I only know about because a YouTuber I subscribed to made a commentary video about it. So I took some notes on my phone, and not because these were notes that I actually thought I would be using in the future, but because I wanted to write them down so I could complain about them later. So here's just a little bit of the banger advice I got from this particular panel. First off, we have grind. All right. Never give up. Okay, could have gotten that on a motivational poster. And take opportunities and risk, which like granted that last one isn't the worst advice, but then it led into the moderator telling the story about how this TikToker like took the risk of signing up for this reality show and that's what got him to where he is. And it's like, okay. So it's like, if you have the opportunity to go on a reality show, take it, I guess. I don't think that's necessarily like, blanket good advice for everyone. It's just all very like lukewarm advice tied to stories about this creator's journey. But this was just one of my first panels and I thought, hey, it can only get better from here, right? Wrong. I left that panel early to go to one of the Discord panels, which if you'll remember, I was actually looking forward to. But it was kind of the same deal. It was one moderator, 4 panelists. Everyone seemed really nice, but again, it was just kind of like a bunch of anecdotes without really any like actionable advice. And when I say actionable advice, I mean like stuff I can write in my notebook, right? Like, here are some Discord bots I find really useful. There wasn't really any discussion like that. It was just like the moderator going down the line asking, what's the funniest thing your community did on Discord? Like, I guess maybe someone could pull a few lessons out of that, but like it just like it wasn't really working for me. For the record, I can't say with certainty that what's the funniest thing your community did on Discord was that. I can't say that that was like an exact question that was asked, but like that it was the vibe. That was like the vibe of the question. So just want to put that out there. Like I said before, some of the questions might have actually been good enough to prompt like actual good advice. But again, I don't think any of the panelists, like they didn't know the questions were coming. They didn't really have time to prepare. So like, I don't think they were prepared to give useful advice. I don't know. And then there were the sponsored panels, which the Discord panels, I believe both of them were sponsored by Discord, but like you go into that knowing we were going to learn about Discord and stuff. So like that was fine. The next panel I went to was also sponsored, but at this point I still like didn't think anything of it or, even process it. I had at this point become wary of the whole like moderator asks creator questions and creator just tells stories for the entirety of the panel setup. So I was relieved to see when I looked like on the app for the information about this panel I was going to that it didn't seem like there were any like creators who were going to be on this panel. They all looked like they were like industry professionals who were going to come to this panel with, say it with me, actionable advice. Again, it doesn't matter. I'm not blaming anyone, but I still don't really want to name names. So I'll just say when they brought this YouTuber out onto the stage, I felt bamboozled. They were not listed on the app under the speakers. And then I proceeded to sit through this panel that was just like, it turns out that all of the industry people, they all work for or work with this one like creator commerce company that was sponsoring the panel. And it was just essentially, for the majority of it at least, these people talking to this YouTuber about how she uses their services. It was just like one long ad for the company. And a lot of times it felt like they weren't even talking about like the literal topic of the panel. I wrote in these like BS notes that I kept in my phone. I feel like they're just talking about whatever they want, and then every once in a while they refer to the name of the panel to try to appear like it's related. It really just felt like this company like bought a panel or however that works, slapped a name on it, and then just talked about themselves for 45 minutes. And then they started talking about NFTs, and I just, it might not seem like it, but like I said, I think I said this at the beginning, like I didn't really want to talk about this. It's kind of hard for me to talk about. Not like in a serious way, but like I don't really like being negative, at least not, publicly. Especially because there's a part of me that keeps saying like, maybe you just didn't like get it. Like maybe everyone else just got like a lot out of these panels and for some reason it just like went over my head. I don't know. Like all I can do is recount my experience, like look at this notebook and see that I took 0 notes at this panel, trust that my experience was real and it happened to me, and just take that as you will, I guess. The other possibility is like I currently have 600,000 followers on TikTok. It's possible that maybe these panels were better suited for people with smaller followings, but like I don't think that's it. I don't know why I started whispering. I just leaned into it. I don't think that's it. Little ASMR moment to break the tension. Like I don't think that was it. I don't think it was the advice that didn't fit me. I just think there really wasn't any advice. Like at one of my early VidCons, I remember being at a panel where a creator was like, hey, try color correcting your videos. Like it'll make a difference. And I wrote that down and I went home and I started color correcting my videos. And it made a difference. Like that is actionable advice that yes, a larger creator who already color corrects their videos might not have written down because they don't really need it. But like I would have recognized that as advice, whether or not I needed the advice, That just like wasn't the situation for this VidCon that I saw for the most part. Now I will say, as I continued going to panels throughout the 3-day span of VidCon, some of the panels were better than others. Some of them had speakers with presentations, with advice. Some of them were still like creators who were telling stories about themselves, but like sometimes those stories would actually be paired with actionable advice. But in my opinion, most of the creator panels I went to were, comment dit-on, duds. I would actually love to give a shout out to a panel titled The Fine Print, What You Should Know Before Signing. The best panel I went to the entire convention. By far, not even close. I went to this panel, it was like middle of day 2. Morale was low. The app said that this panel about like negotiating brand deals was going to be, hang on, I'm going to read it off of this. It was going to feature a VP of legal affairs and a corporate transactional attorney. I was just ready for them to roll out Charli D'Amelio to talk about how she like, I don't know, got her Hulu show. That's how low I was. Not that, no offense to Charli, I just, you know what I'm saying. But these two badasses walked right out onto the stage, sat down, pulled out their notebooks, and they were like, all right, buckle up, kids. And they just, for the next hour, they were just giving like piece of advice after piece of advice after piece of advice. I filled a whole page of my notebook with notes just from that panel alone. For context, the entire convention, I used up 3 pages of my notebook for notes. And that was like for 12 panels. I took a third of my notes at one of the 12 panels I went to at VidCon. So shout out to those ladies. Absolute banger of a panel. The rest of the panels I went to varied from like mildly helpful to like I didn't even take my notebook out. They were either sponsored and like very focused on the sponsor and or like heavily anecdotal. The second Discord panel I went to was like a little better than the first. It was led by 2 guys who actually like seemed they had a prepared presentation and were really good speakers. But like again, a lot of their presentation, especially at the beginning, was like very anecdotal to the point where like they were talking about themselves for a while and they kept like making jokes that was like, we're gonna get the Discord. We know this is a Discord panel. None of this would have happened without Discord. But it's like, but you're not telling me anything about Discord. You're just talking about yourselves. I feel bad. I'm sure they're nice. Like I'm not, it's at VidCon. It's VidCon's fault. People are fine. They're just doing what they gotta do. Props to those guys. They were really good speakers. I can't do this. I actually realized that the majority of the notes I took at that specific panel came from the Q&A that came after the presentation, which, fun fact about me, I hate Q&As. I like them in theory, but it's just like every VidCon, they do a Q&A. Like, you know, a couple people ask like actually good and helpful questions, which did happen at this panel, but there's always like at least one person who's like, here is my very specific situation. Help me. But the people at this Discord panel, like, I think they were like me. They wanted to know like what bots they used, how to like promote your server, any tools for filtering like members who want to join. And like I couldn't even really ask questions. Not that I would, because Q&As are my nightmare and that sounds like a terrible experience for me. But like I couldn't even ask questions because I didn't really know what questions to ask because I don't know a lot about Discord. So I just like I didn't even know where to start. So like I was very thankful for these people who did kind of have an idea of what they wanted to ask about, because like I said, the majority of my notes for that panel came from the Q&A portion. Something else I realized, I said before that the Creator Track Pass gives you access to Creator Track stuff and Community Track stuff. And the Creator Track costs more, I assume, because you have access to more stuff. Yeah, that makes sense. But if you're not really interested in the Community Track stuff, you're kind of just paying more for just the Creator Track, which especially sucks when, like I experienced this year, a lot of the Creator Track panels kind of felt like community track panels. Just like creators talking about their own experiences instead of giving, I'm gonna make this the last time I say it, probably, maybe not, I don't know, we'll see, actionable advice to the people who paid more to learn how to build their brand online. That's like exactly what it says for the Creator Track. So to wrap up, 2 questions. How do I think VidCon could make the Creator Track better next year? And will I be going next year? I feel like I have to give some suggestions for how the Creator Track could be better, because it like, you know, it sucks to complain about something and then just be like, I don't know, figure it out. I feel like I did kind of already like say how I wished it could have been better, but I don't know. It feels good to emphasize, especially at the end. I think that the majority of the panels on the Creator Track should be led by skilled speakers who come with a presentation about a clear, specific topic. If they want to do those panels where it's like a moderator talking to creators, I think the creators should be given the questions in advance and be asked to come with advice related to those questions, and also be encouraged to just in general come to the panel with I'm trying not to say the phrase because I already promised I wasn't going to say it anymore, with, you know, tips and tricks that are helpful and useful that people can go home and use them. Actionable advice. Now, like, this might come as a surprise. I've never run a convention, so I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if the issue with this is that skilled speakers cost more, and also like asking the creators to do homework before coming to the convention would also lead them to cost more. I imagine it's cheaper to just like throw a bunch of people on stage than, you know, actually prepare and ensure that the people are going to be talking and giving it advice that would make the panel worth it for the people paying more than other people to be there. So there's the rub. I don't see VidCon viewing this as a big enough issue for them to put more money into it. So, which leads to the final question. Will I go back next year? No. I won't even pause for dramatic effect. I highly doubt no. I think my answer is probably definitely no. Nothing's 100%. Nothing's for sure, but it's not at this point, it's not likely. Like, this is a big trip for me. I live on the other side of the country. They don't drop the agenda until April, and it's like difficult to plan a trip like that over 2 months. So like, I can't even really wait to see the agenda to see if the panels look better. And I'm not even sure if just looking at the agenda would be able to tell me if I think it's worth it. And like I said, I honestly don't think VidCon's going to put in the time and money to make the Creator Track better to a point where I would want to go next year. So yeah, no. That's it, I guess. Oh, I got the VidCon. I wore my mask 99% of the time. Literally would just like, if I got thirsty, I would go to like a corner of the room where no one was, take off the mask, real quick sip of water, bada bing, bada boom. Or I would go outside to eat and also, not be around people. I wore my mask every other time, even just walking around outside, had my mask on. And apparently a lot of people got it. My friend was like, well, was VidCon at least worth it? And I was like, no. If you went to VidCon this year, I'd love to hear about your experience, especially if you were on the creator track this year, and especially if you've like done the creator track in the past and then also did it this year. Like I said multiple times, I don't like talking negatively about things in public. So just keep in mind, this was my experience. I would love to hear about other people's experiences. As much as I'd love for people to like validate me and say that they also had like a trash time at VidCon, like I hope that's not true. I hope more people enjoyed VidCon than I did. I also just realized that this light went out. I don't know when it went out, but it's out. So I guess it's time to wrap up the video. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe, or don't. Live your life. Bye.